Good morning, everybody. First, I want to give a shout out to all the moms out there. Yesterday, of course, was Mother's Day. Now, I have a lot of respect for my mother because she raised three children and was alone. And so she got us raised up. We never had the light shut off. We always had food to eat. Now, you should really appreciate mothers every day because moms have the toughest job. Understand that when they have these days in the calendar, those are simply economic benchmarks that they can put in place to generate revenue for certain sectors of the economy that they want to keep going. And yeah, a lot of people benefit financially from these holidays, but understand that you should just be respecting and loving mothers as you should with brothers, sisters, fathers, and everybody every single day. And then you don't have to wait for a specific day to recognize those people. So that's the way I live my life. Don't live your life according to the pagan calendar. Live your life according to what God tells us to do, and that's to every single day treat each other with love and respect. Or at least try to, right? Well, none of us are perfect. But anyway, I just wanted to give a shout out to the moms out there. And so let's get into this decode. So I was able to complete 2 more montages on Helix. Let's pull it up here. And one of these I published already, but the other montage you will see for the first time today. That's going to be the second part of the show. Now, I want to remind you, we are going to have another premiere after this show. The link is in the pinned chat. So when the show's over, just go to the pinned comment in the chat, click on the link, and it'll bring you right in to the next show. That's going to be all about Gil Bates and his bromance with Eggstain. So that ought to be pretty interesting, as Melinda seems to start to distance herself from Gil. Now let's get back into this Helix, because we already decoded this. We did a full show on the previous montage. So if you're lost, you can backtrack and go back to Helix Part 1. And now I'm already into Season 2, but there isn't much to report on Season 2. So let's get into this series, Helix. This is a 2014 HBO TV series that seems to be all about what is happening right now. So, as we start this, understand that the single technology of choice that has been chosen by the powers that be for the CV-19 VC is, of course, the MRNA technology, which just so happens to be the very same tech used in the TV series. Listen.
She's an expert in RNA structure.
And that's important because?
RNA carries the message. We store the instructions for the cure in the DNA, and then the RNA passes it on.
Wait, what about?
She wrote the book on viral splicing and RNA binding proteins. I need her. We need her to fight this thing. Look more closely.
Oh my God.
I can't believe I didn't see it before.
He's using the virus as a delivery mechanism.
The question is, what's the virus bringing to the party? And why? Extreme low temperature.
So, they discover that the virus in the series has a hidden coding in it that changes the DNA. Now, the virus in the series is called Narvik, Narvik, which sounds a lot like COVID, doesn't it? Narvik, COVID. And the virus in the series is a metaphor for the CV-19 VC in real life. And the cure has to be stored at sub-zero temperature. Why? Because it lowers the defenses of the virus. Makes you wonder why the CV-19 vaccine has to also be stored at sub-zero temperature.
And why?
Extreme low temperature.
Slowing down the effects of the virus.
This means this may work on humans.
We need to get Peter on ice.
Now, here's one of the more creepy aspects to the series, again, that came out in 2014, long before CV-19 was ever thought of. This woman here, she's one of the leads in the series. She plays the role of the scientist who discovers the rapid testing and also The Cure. Now, what's weird about this actress is that she shares the same birthday as Donald Dump. In fact, Dump played the exact same role as this woman in the series. How? By leading with the inaccurate testing and the cure for CV-19, the warp speed. So we have almost an exact role match from TV to real life. Except Dump wouldn't even announce his presidency until an entire year before this series filmed. And this actress is now 33 years old, which means that it's happening right now.
He tried to kill me back at the base.
Now, in this next scene, what you're going to see is this twinning aspect again. The twinning. And how many times have we talked about the twins as it relates to this virus? We're now in the midst of a real-life twin birth surge. And these twins are being born out of the initial lockdowns and the beginnings of the spamdemic. So it begs the question, what did they do to us? Why are so many women having twins? Now, what they're trying to tell us is this is because more and more women are having children, and because of, the technology to help women have children is breeding more twins. But what if they're not telling us the truth? What if this has something to do with what happens when you cover your face up? Now, the twins in the series, one is good and one is evil. One works for the Ilaria Corporation, which we're going to talk about in a minute, and the other lives in this town up here. He's a Native American Eskimo that lives in the town that is close to the Ilaria Corporation, to this base that's in the series. And this is just like we talked about. Let's keep playing this here.
What? When?
Go ahead. Ask him.
Are you out of your mind? That's my brother! That's my brother to Luke!
Daniel is your brother?
Who's Daniel?
I eliminated him.
You fool! Don't you see?
Met Luke outside. This is Miksa. Disappeared when we were kids. He was only 4 years old. This is a picture of me and my brothers. Twins.
Well, Ilaria is...
Now, the evil Ilaria Corporation is run by these immortal fallen angels, and their eyes turn silver. We're going to look at that later in the decode here. But they are the ones who developed the virus, and they're now trying to develop a cure because the two go together. And what do these Ilaria corporations represent? Well, they are the serpent in the chest. They're the time travelers who live multiple lifetimes, just like we said, and it's all here in the TV series. And so what does Ilaria really represent? Well, you're going to see now that it is an ancient Roman cult in which they sacrifice trees. And the first day of Hilaria falls on 3/22, Skull and Bones, March 22nd. Did you know that March 22nd is 88 days after Christmas? I bet you didn't know that. Because all of this stuff, these calendar dates of sacrifice, all mean something. So it's this hilarious, this ancient Roman cult. They sacrifice a tree after they do this scourging and whipping ritual, which, are you starting to see how all this fits into Yahushua, Jesus, and his hazing ritual? And then he was hung on a tree. So they cut down this small tree, and after the scourging and whipping, they decorate it with violets and wool. What would the wool represent? Well, that would be the fleecing of the Lamb of God. Now, if you haven't figured it out by now, trees represent people.
It's about value add. If Dr. Walker is what you need, Dr. Walker is what you will get.
Ilaria.
So here's the Wikipedia page on Hilaria. And as you can see, it starts on March 22nd, 88 days after Christmas. It's the fallen ones from heaven. These are the fallen angels. They call the ritual the entering of the tree. They cut down a pine tree, set it up in a place of honor inside the temple of Sybil. Fleeces of wool are tied around the tree trunk. Decked in wreaths of violets. They're basically decorating a Christmas tree. And now you know why in Jeremiah, God forbids the cutting of trees and putting ornaments on it, because this is ancient evil worship. But yet, people still do it. I don't understand. This is the Day of Blood. They call it Sanguis, which is the same as the themes running through Hilaria. It's called the Black Blood. We're going to get into that in a minute. But there's a scourging and whipping rites, as well as just humiliation ritual. Then they bury the tree. Then there's a resurrection, right? Is this all sounding familiar? They're basically mocking the Son of God. Death, birth, resurrection.
You don't want to kill everybody, just thin the herd a bit.
So she says, we don't want to kill everybody. We just want to thin the herd a little bit. What's happening right now? Now you're going to hear her talk about the cure and the virus, that they need to be created together.
And rule them.
It's time. Virus and cure, one without the other, is meaningless.
I created your virus.
Where is the cure?
Hiroshi.
So, eye color is said to change when people are infected with certain viruses.
Let's not forget which side you're on.
And we'll get into that a little bit more later in the show. But now in real life, CV-19 is being blamed for mental problems like schizophrenia, hysteria. But it's weird, these reports didn't start coming out until after the vaccine was launched. Weird, right? Now, lots of people have been talking about sound frequency, the microwave aspect to the spamdemic. So this aspect seems to appear in the series in this episode that you're going to see next on the wall. And I saw this frequency range poster you're going to see here. And it immediately followed by the Trump character. Remember the woman who was born on the same birthday, who's now 33. She uses this frequency weapon to disable the zombies. So there's the poster on the wall. It says frequency range and there's an ear. That was the first thing I saw. had no idea that she was going to go on to talk about this frequency weapon that she pulled out that she was going to use on the zombies. But this is where you get confirmations. This is where you understand that what you initially see is a little clue. Now, what could this light post next to it mean? Is that like a 5G whiz tower? I don't know.
Photology, the study of sound. It's an LRAD device. It's a sound cannon. Police use them for crowd control.
So she's the dump character, born on the same day, now 33 years old, and she's using the 5G whiz sound cannon.
And I'm pretty sure the mods on this device allow for high precision targeting.
High precision targeting. Now, here's another bombshell that I found in the series. Quarantined, Created, and Muzzled. This reminded me of the scene from iPad Go 2 in 2012.
Love to travel, just hate to pack.
Now, I've repeated that several times so you can understand what you're looking at. That these are all foreshadowings of what they knew they were going to put us through. Packing us in crates, which was the lockdowns. Stuck in our homes with a mark on the forehead of the goat. In our masks. Muzzled.
It's a bit two of my men.
Hopefully the muzzle will take care of the fighting situation.
It's a bit two of my men.
Hopefully the muzzle will take care of the fighting situation.
I mean, can you even believe your ears? I couldn't. Now, in this little dialogue here, you're going to hear her basically talk about the end justifying the means.
Edward Jenner infected an 8-year-old boy with smallpox to test an unproven theory. You may have done some terrible things, but I can't help but think that none of that will matter if we get this antiviral to work. He could have been charged with murder. Jenner pioneered the use of modern vaccinations. He saved millions of lives.
You can see her telomeres have lengthened.
Now, let's talk about telomeres. I'm going to make sure we're still together here before we get into this. Good morning, everybody. What are telomeres? Well, they're in the anatomy of the DNA. And in the series, they are said to be shortened. Well, in real life, the same thing is said to happen to telomeres of CV-19 infected people. Listen.
Restored to the lengths that you'd expect to see in a newborn, all without requiring telomerase. This is a scan of Julia's telomeres taken 8 days ago when she was first infected with the virus. And this is her sample from 2 days ago.
You can't make this up. January 2021, study links severe CV-19 to short telomeres. That's exactly what she said, except the series came out in 2014. It's all programming.
Her telomeres.
Now, is this a side effect of the virus, like the pigmentation change in her eyes, or is this why she recovered?
Now, as I said earlier in the show, these fallen ones have silver eyes. Well, in real life, some people have reported changing eye color after they got the vaccine. Now, of course, scientists are saying there's no connection, but it was reported.
Now, is this a side effect of the virus, like the pigmentation change in her eyes?
You can survive 4 minutes without oxygen, 40 days without food, 4 days without water.
So here's one of these fallen ones. This particular guy was locked in some kind of facility as some kind of punishment. But there they are with the silver eyes. And you just heard him basically recount the law of 40. Now, there is such a thing called the canon of 40, and it has to do with distance between the moon and the sun and all this stuff. Now, we had reported on that years ago, but I believe the canon of 40 is simply the lie. That's the lie that they've given us to make us believe that the moon perfectly covers the sun in an eclipse, and that house is somehow related into the distance between the two, as well as the size of those objects in the sky, as well as the size of Earth. It's all comes down to what's called the canon of 40. Now, understand that the canon of 40 is also what's called a ratio. So you could have much shorter distances with the same canon. Does that make sense? It's like an equation. So, in other words, we know that 16 is only a multiple of 4. So you could reduce that down to 4 instead of 16. So that would be a much shorter distance or shorter length, right? Now, the other thing about the 4, he talked about the survival. I guess you could call this the survival canon. 4 days without water, 40 days without food, and 4 minutes without oxygen.
Theoretically, we could induce the absence of telomerase. That, in turn, would remove the fuel necessary for cancer cells to grow. And if we could remove the fuel, then my cancer cells would die.
So understand, this is all about curing cancer. This is the holy grail of science. And we have the same themes running through the 2007 film, I Am Legend, with Will Smith. And these scientists believe that if they can find the cure, that the ends will justify the means. Now, that's the end of this first montage. Here's the second one. You guys have not seen this one yet. And I will upload this to my backup channel, EnterTheStars Unstoppable, in case you want to see just this montage by itself. But we're going to break it down here. So this opens with they call them the 500. So instead of the 200 that fell at Mount Hermon, there are 500. Obvious reference to the fallen angels.
They have gone to great lengths to keep their secrets. Who are they?
The 500.
500 immortals. They run Ilaria Corporation.
So they run Ilaria Corporation, and of course now we know what Hilaria really means. Now I can't imagine that anybody who watched this series made the connection between Ilaria and Hilaria, but we did. And so now you know. Now, there are 2 strains of this virus in the series. They are called Narvik A and Narvik B. Remember, there are always twins. There are always 2. But I want you to look at the lot numbers on this canister she's going to pull out here. And they are encoded with 119 or 119, which of course was the coming CV19. Watch. And there you see it. 5 and 4 is 9. 5 and 4 is 9. And then you got 2 1s left over. And you have 119. Doesn't Narvik sound a lot like COVID? Now, there's an Australian saying that says, keep calm, carry on. Now, I don't know if this is specific only to Australia. This might be the UK as well, but for those of you in the UK, you've probably heard this saying before, or if you're in Australia. And look at this. The saying appears in the series. This is creepy.
If you scatter to the wind, you still have a fighting chance.
So here it is, right out of the series. You see it's exactly the same, but yet they're applying this saying to CV-19, which hadn't happened yet in the series. And what were they saying to Australians about keep calm and carry on? They're saying, oh, well, we can't do that anymore with CV-19. That doesn't apply anymore. We won't be able to fight this virus if we keep with this saying, keep calm, carry on. It's not enough anymore. Well, here it is right here on a coffee mug in a series before it ever happened. Now, what's up with this? Well, the zombies vomit into the mug and they feed it to their hive master to revive him. They also use it to infect people who hadn't been infected yet. So there's something very cryptic and creepy about this mug and the saying. Now, in this next scene,
that rat didn't crawl in there by itself.
Now in this scene, the zombies put a rat in a microwave. Okay? And it blows up, and it basically is a trap to lure in people who are hungry. Why they would be attracted to a rat in a microwave, I don't know. But that's where you got to read between the lines about this stuff. Because this is another microwave clue. Which is another aspect of the virus that a lot of people have been talking about. The virus that can control hive mind thinking. Listen and watch.
Dr. Cato went out to look for some food. We warned her not to go alone, but she wouldn't listen.
They're using bait. Setting traps now. They know food is scarce and people are desperate. I think these vectors represent a new step in evolutionary virology. It's created a new kind of organism. A viral collective. This is an evolved virus that both changes the host and stays active until that host dies of other causes.
Now, if you think I'm crazy, look at this scene. Look at how the 5G whiz is encoded in the channel number of an outbreak. They're calling this the Sangre Negra, which means the black blood. This thing was launched in Puerto Rico, Lares, Puerto Rico to be exact. And watch and listen.
Looking at. Seems there's been an outbreak of an unknown viral illness in Lares, Puerto Rico. Sick and untold number of dead. And they're calling it Sangre Negra. Black blood. Number of dead. And they're calling it Sangre Negra. Sick and untold number of dead. And they're...
Now, I looked up Lares, Puerto Rico. And I hope you're sitting down for this.
Lares is isolated. It's the perfect sample size to see how the virus behaves in a given population.
There are no reports of vectors, so it must be Narvik.
This is unspeakable.
What's going on in Lares, Puerto Rico? Well, it's at the 66th meridian. For those of you that follow this channel, you know exactly what that means. The 66th floor penthouse of a president hadn't even been elected yet. And something else really creepy happened here. When Hurricane Maria blew through here, the graves of the dead were opened. This is crazy. The graves of the dead were opened when Hurricane Maria blew through and caused a bunch of landslides. There was a mass exodus of people after this happened. They probably felt as though the place was cursed after they saw their buried dead in open caskets sliding down the mudslides from the graves. Almost seems like a reflection of what really happened in the TV series 2 years earlier. It says when the hurricane hit, many areas in the municipal cemetery of Lars were damaged by mudslides. Total affected were 5,000 burial plots, with burial places shifted and some plots opened. In response, the municipality closed the cemetery to the public. Then they began listing the names of the cadavers that would be exhumed and moved to other cemeteries, a long and delicate process. Unreal. So then you juxtapose that to what's going on here, the dead running in the streets.
Are you sure it wasn't an accident?
No, it was a test run.
Now this part is another bombshell scene that seems to predict the whole letter that shall not be named movement. Because the zombies organize and they basically infect this woman that they've captured by forcing her to drink their blood in some sick ritual. And one of their tools of choice are Q-tips. They're featured prominently here. They want you to see the Q-tip box. Now understand the whole Q-tip movement was a psyop.
We have to trust that our treatment will work fast enough.
Now, here's what's crazy. Because when you think about testing and the whole Q-tip up the nasal passage, you have a place where the infected are gathering in one place to be tested, right? So you got virus all over the place. No matter how much you clean, that's the one place where you're going to have a concentration of whatever this is. Even think of this in terms of like the flu, right? Even if, most of us don't accept that this CV is even real. It's just the flu, right? Is what many of us believe. So if that's the case, even with that aspect, you've got a concentration of people going in and out, touching doorknobs, right? And we know that this is the case, that these places are hubs. They're like cesspools of infection because we have really high infection rates in hospitals. Same thing. No matter how much you clean, it's going to be there. So you've got this parade of possibly infected people. You've got gloves coming on and off. What about the few times they forget to change the gloves? They're opening sterile packaging, yes, but they're opening it over and over, and they might have touched a surface that they didn't realize. You got this stuff in the air as people are coughing, and that's according to their own definition, right? They said it's on air droplets. So if someone coughs and that falls onto the latex glove box or to the sterile swabs, when you go to open that, it's going to move it right to the next person. Cross-contamination and even spreading it. And what happens when you push through the protective mucosal layer of the sinuses? You push that outside environment right into the next person. Well, in the series, just as you saw, this is how they infect the people that they capture. They have the Q-tip box.
In a fair fight, Narvik will mutate to repel anything we throw at it, right? So what we need is an unfair advantage. There is no treatment that's fast enough. So what we need to do is slow down the virus long enough for the cure to take effect. And we can do that by infusing it with cryofluid.
Infusing it with cryofluid. Infusing it with cryofluid.
Dr. Jordan had the idea of infusing the cure into an ultra-low temperature solution, giving the antiviral time to outperform the virus.
Infusing the cure with sub-zero temperatures, which is exactly what the cure is now. It's sub-zero temperatures. How did they know all this? Not just refrigerated, but sub-zero. How did they know all this? It's kind of like pretty amazing, isn't it? You and I know how they knew, but now let's keep going with this because you're going to notice the Russian dolls aspect to this, which is another thing that we've been talking about. Within the virus canister, there are two more viruses, A and B. So that's like Russian dolls, things within things.
Virus.
Virus and cure. They're yours now.
So that's it. Again, I'll upload this to the backup channel. And again, we're going to be directly following this show with another show. It's in the pinned chat right up here at the top. All you got to do is come up here, click on this, and there's the link. And as soon as we're done here, I'll head right over there. We can all hang out in the chat over there. And so, what will that show be about? Well, it's going to be about the Gil Bates and Eggstain bromance. And it appears as though Melinda is starting to try to separate herself from Gil. And that begs the question, is there some information that's about to be released? And she's trying to separate herself from him. That is the question. Or maybe there's the threat of that happening. And she's decided it's too much. She wants to protect her legacy. She may become the new matriarch of the Bates Foundation. Maybe they're going to roast Bill in some ritual. Maybe he's done. It's time for him to step down. And now they're going to go with the female aspect. You see how all this works? See how this whole Me Too movement and the women's movement doesn't really jive with Melinda hanging out with Eggstain? So now she's trying to pretend like she's innocent. Nothing happened, nothing to see here. I was really uncomfortable with it. I didn't know. How did you not know? The guy had already been arrested and convicted. At that point, I don't hang out with people that have been involved in stuff like that. Especially not friends, close friends with them. You just don't do it. So for her to continue to do it, hey, I thought they were in some kind of empowered woman relationship. I thought their marriage was an empowered woman marriage where she could just stay home that night. Why did you go if you were uncomfortable? Why did you go several times? She's not innocent. She's not innocent. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I'll show you the news headlines on that. All right, we got a little bit of time. I don't think the show is scheduled till 10. So we got about 45 minutes. We'll hang out here for a few more minutes. Hi, everybody. Maylin, Country Sunshine Girl. All right. Someone said Billy was under investigation. Yeah, we're not supposed to care about this world. We're supposed to keep our eyes fixed on heaven. So if you're feeling that way, that's completely spiritually normal. Jesus said that we would be no part of this world. We live in the world, but we're not of it. We're supposed to keep our eyes fixed on heaven. And try to help the people around us to wake up. How? By living our life as an example. You can still find joy in life, but also reject evil, reject lies, reject the manipulation of the powers that be. Yeah, dude can't be a matriarch. That's why I was saying she's going to probably take over. They're going to roast Bill, and it's going to be the matriarchal, Melinda Foundation. They're going to cut Gates out of the deal. They do this every so often. They'll roast their own people. But just understand that these people, oftentimes, that's just all just a cover story. And what it allows those people to do once they drop out of the limelight is to just do what thou wilt in the shadows, and people forget about them. So they're not suffering. They're just not in the limelight anymore. So don't feel bad for him, and don't think it's real. It's all just lies and smoke and mirrors. And then they'll put forth like a female leader, and then she'll be like the new Oprah, right? She'll be like the vanilla version of Oprah, and everyone will feel sorry for her. And then Gates will go retire on his $1 billion island and ship people in to exploit. And that's how that'll end. So, all right. Yeah, we saw kind of the same thing with the Clintons. You know, once Bill dropped out of the limelight, he helped her. Why? Because it's all about the female goddess, right? This is what they really are all about. They really want to push this. Because why? Because it creates tension between the genders, between male and female. Creates division. There's always something to fight about at the dinner table, about rights and this and that. And could a woman do it better? And they want that. They want that division. They want that at the forefront of your mind when in any relationship that you have with a male or female. It creates discord. So, all right. So we got about another half hour. I will see you guys over there. I'll just head over to the chat now. I'll be dropping in and out. We can hang out over there. I love each and every one of you. Have a great day.